Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday of Holy Week. This is a blessed time, isn't it? It is a very holy time. I hope you and your family are taking advantage of all of this week. Please do. Please, you'll receive the graces of our Lord. You'll be very close to Him. He'll speak to you. Make sure you gather the family in prayer. Come to Mass or the Good Friday service. Please take advantage of everything your parish family offers to you and your individual family. You'll be happy that you did it. Well, I'm going to continue with the Way of the Cross, the meditations by St. Alphonsus Liguori, and we have been really praying these 14 stations with you and taking a time to understand them just a little bit more deeply. Today, our focus is on the 12th station, and that is Jesus is raised upon the cross and dies. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you, because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Consider how your Jesus, after 3 hours agony on the cross, consumed at length with anguish, abandons himself to the weight of his body, bows his head, and dies. Wow. He is on the cross and hanging in crucifixion. So just to put a perspective for everybody, so on Wednesday, we'll talk about Spy Wednesday. I'm sure you've heard of that. Judas was getting everything in his mind to turn him over to the Roman soldiers, to arrest him. And then they arrested him after the Last Supper. We'll talk about that. Because they took him to Caiaphas' house, where he was stayed in prison. He was imprisoned in Caiaphas' house all night. Horrible. They beat him, and they wrapped a rope around his arms and lowered him in to a hole in Caiaphas' house, barely touching the floor all night long. Could you imagine the torture, the mental torture? And then he was, of course, brought before Pontius Pilate. But I want to tell you about that night on Holy Thursday when they arrested him. So, have you ever been to the Holy Thursday Mass? I hope you're able to come this year. At the end of the Mass, just like what it says in the Gospels, we're walking with Jesus in procession as they are leading him to Caiaphas' house in prison. Are you aware that the repository or the tabernacle in which we keep the Blessed Sacrament on Holy Thursday night is usually at another location? Do you know why? Because it's from another location that he was imprisoned, other than the upper room. And the reason why we process is because we walk with the soldiers, because we want to know where they're taking him. So there's the procession. Well, Father, why do we have a procession? Well, because Jesus was arrested and they're taking him to Caiaphas' house and imprisoning him, and we're going. We're going to be right there because we're believers. And they take him to Caiaphas' house, which is usually another place, but this year it's going to be on our main altar. You know why? Because of COVID restrictions. So we want to make sure people visit the church and we're spaced out. So we're still going to do it. And we place him in another tabernacle, prison, and we adore him all through the night. So everyone, the repository is really the prison. It's the prison. Because he was arrested after the Last Supper. We walk with him in procession. And then we go to the place where he's imprisoned. And we stay with him so he's not alone. Isn't that beautiful? Really? The Catholic faith is the true faith. Well, you don't have to convince me. I know that. But maybe you have to tell everybody what we believe. Well, anyway, this is the 12th station. I'm only saying that as a preface to my reflection because I want you to put it all together like a nice glass of wine. It takes the whole meal and it puts it all together, and you could just breathe it in and then receive it. That's like our faith, right? To receive it, to experience it, to breathe it in, and to receive it. Jesus is raised upon the cross and dies. His body is really now heavy. The weight of his body. He's becoming very limp. He's even sliding down on the cross. Did you know? Remember I told you that the nails were here? See, he was sliding down. If he slid down, it would rip through. But he's sliding down. Do you know why? He can't breathe. He cannot breathe. Asphyxiation is the cause of death. I know we think automatically loss of blood. He could not breathe. You see how thin he is, his rib cage, you could see. He's sliding down on the cross, he's limp. The bone in his wrist is holding him up with the feet crossed and the piece of wood holding those feet up. You can almost imagine that our Lord is scooting back up again with any energy he has, which is very little. Oh, they know what they were doing. They knew what they were doing to make it a cruel death. Let's make that clear. So he goes before Pontius Pilate at 9. He goes on the top of Calvary by 12 noon. And that's where they crucify him. And then 3 hours later, he does die. And they have to get the body down before 4 o'clock because it will be Saturday. And what is Saturday to the Jewish people? The Sabbath. So thank God Joseph of Arimathea had a grave that he gave to Jesus. It was a borrowed grave. It wasn't that far from the crucifixion. And they took him down, and I'll talk about that tomorrow because the 13th station is he's taken down from the cross. Do you see the inscription on the top of the cross, INRI? Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Just the abbreviations. I, Jesus, and Nazareth, our King. I, Jews. Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Now, let me tell you, that was all written out in Latin, in Greek, and in Hebrew. All written out. But we, because we're Latin Rite Catholics, took the Latin phrase, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews, and took the abbreviation for each word. So you got that? INRI, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. But that was all written out. Latin, Greek, Hebrew. Why? Because everybody was passing Jerusalem. Jerusalem was a hot spot. If I could give you a visual, it was like New York City. You know why? Everybody's there. Not only those who spoke English. Everybody's there. Doing business, buying things. So when they put the accusation up, which they did with all the criminals, they put the accusation that he, of course, is Jesus the King of the Jews. It was a mockery. Because the King of the Jews, look at him. Ha, 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 ha. Look at him. See, it was a mockery. And then they shouted out, you should have put, he made himself to be the King of the Jews. Or he thought he was the King of the Jews. Or he's not really the king. And Pilate said, what I have written, I have written. All for our salvation. He was about 33 years old when he died, our Lord. So do you have the picture now that 9 o'clock at Pilate, getting condemned to die, took him about 3 hours to get to the top of Calvary. Then another 3 hours before he died. Do you know what I always remember, everyone? You might think I'm crazy, but I look at the clock, 9, 12, 3, and I see the rising of the sun, because the sun will rise as he promised. Have a nice day, everyone.